first weeks of the Biden administration, state Republicans across the country united around an effort to place hurdles in front of the right to vote, a right enshrined in the Constitution. And that was all based on lies about voter fraud. Now they're coalescing around another project. GOP legislatures are pushing new laws aimed at protesting, another right enshrined in the Constitution. And it's all based on the false narrative that Black Lives Matter protests last year left cities in ruins, that the protesters did that. But first, let's look at the facts. Let's analyze this. This is according to the Washington Post. This is data that showed from last summer's BLM protests, 96% of the protests involved zero property damage and zero police injuries. Police used tear gas or chemicals in just 2.5% of protests, and the majority of the violence that did take place was directed against BLM protesters. Again, this is according to the Washington Post and data that it had analyzed. But under the guise of anti-rioting and anti-looting, GOP lawmakers in 34 states have introduced 81 anti-protest bills this year, according to the New York Times. The harshest example is in Florida. Here's how Governor Ron DeSantis describes it.
I think it's really remarkable if you look at the breadth of this particular piece of legislation. It is the strongest anti-rioting, pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country. And there's just nothing even close.
So here's what the Florida law actually does. It elevates existing public disorder crimes from misdemeanors to felonies. It makes destroying monuments a felony with a 15-year prison sentence, and it adds liability protections that would apply to motorists who drive into protesters. Let me repeat that. It reduces the punishment for people who run over people, but increases the punishment for people who damage statues. Similar measures grant